Hear Monet's bamboo, pray the wind, the bird song of Giverny ascends. The world does its work, sways the hay grass, shakes the trees, holds the leaves alight. A park in Paris, new sun, bridal wreath, cherry lilacs, all in bloom. To the wonder of who I am, I bare my heart to the morning sun. French girls laughing make the world stop and smile. Tired hearts sing, old men rejoice. I cannot describe this moment, finally free of definition. The faces in the trees, the faces in the stone, the whole forest comes to life. Every labor a learning, every learning a few steps closer home. Seasons take their toll here, fell the forests, bare the bedrock, forgive all. Gather the moments, my friends, they are all that bidden us partake. Monet's bamboo sweeps the twilight sky. Its brushwork paints the maiden moon. I see your colors, the late apples hold the young chill, sumac and pine. We are each other's work, each other's passion, our harbors at day's end. We are pilgrims, works in progress, simple servants on this bright new day. Fireflies aglow, as if the stars have fallen on our high wild meadow. Water lilies and turtles in the rain. The whole world moves without me. A pesky summer Hudson Valley breeze blows your skirt above your knees. With all windows closed, the honeysuckle sneaks through into our kitchen. Like me, this tree was always here. Like me, this tree returns to the earth. The other disciple whom Jesus loved. Peter the apostle was an affable dude who denied the boss 3 times and charged headfirst into the churning Galilee. Who wrote this book about disquiet, you see, its tenterhooks and daisies, its manifestations of pain, breaking like thunder from the left shoulder, down your arm, into your chest, seizing your heart with falsehood, rumor, and conniption. Could you give him back his book, please? Tell him thanks for me. Imagine, like Mayans, that we crown ourselves a king, a ruler brash of muscle and wind. A broken ruler seeks revenge, the engravings foretell. But only half of us can read the dominant meme of gods, where turtles float in 13 layers, and celestials birth the inbred brawling. Nice. That's kind of cool.
Thank you. Garbage can from Coliseum.
The sound of winter, free of seething, free of siege, long days receding. The snow is falling. I do not feel so alone in this world right now. Woodpecker in the nearness, eastern sky waking, I stand in your midst. Since you asked, here's my mantra. No one's helpless when they stop to pray. From here, I can see myself flying, the angel I will someday be. Night comes to the dark Catskills. Dylan skids. Big Bear shadows out the moon. She is asleep as I tell this tale. A story true, a fine love complete. I can smell the wet earth of the dark valley, the old sun to the west. What kindling then shall we set alight as the moon above darks the night? The unforgiving work of revolution is in all of our hands. Among leaves I sit as I will someday lie in this welcoming earth. When sunflowers fall, it breaks her heart. Young girl sad when sunflowers fall. The eastern pavements decant the morning sun, ring with our common songs. The late August light, the gypsy violin, the shadows so restless. The barred owl howls, and everything in the forest turns its head to hear. Cumulus crews the Mohawk sky, the flight path of angels passes through. When will I take up my father's cloak, its rounded shoulders, fraying sleeve? Late July, and the hollyhocks fade into autumn, fall into next year. Crossing the distance with Adam's receipt, me being me in the sky city blue. Through stained glass mornings, we wander so unaware of mercy shining. Walking God's woods, I realize my sins, I release my sin. But walking God's woods, I release my sins. I move more lightly, for I am clean. How'd you get here so fast? St. Peter asks. So I say, I had a 7-mile jump on all the rest. We were 38,000 feet above Charlotte, I say, knowing full well he knew full well and was testing my wiry candor. I know it was the wine, I say. He then quoted his heavenly manual. You come when you're called and you wait in the queue. But I'm here now if ever I was, I say, my blood pressure cuff still on my right arm, still tight on my arm, my shoes untied, my shirt undone, my hair a quiff of its former coif. Hey, Pete, I say, unrepentant, we're just two guys on the astral plane rooting for the same team. Come on, come on, come on, just what did the big guy say? You're in, he said. Now wait right there. There are faint moments, few and far between, when you see the open path. The long pursuit of acceptance exhausts the mind, walks the day sadly. It was your hands in mine this morning, holding this frayed book of prayer. Poems above Brooklyn, subway rumble, poets speak loud, Williamsburg listens. Wet early chill, nests in the rustic fern, sunlight rests on pathway home. The man who hated umbrellas caught the headwinds, sailed on warm currents. We build the beast, we accept the least, turn the feast into famine and want. The color of awe renders me silent, buoyant, crossing Basho's path. Thoughts like avenues, cross-cut, crisscross, leave me straying these dark streets. Crescent moon hangs low above Brooklyn. Saxophone blues, a sad guitar. Ulster County backwood roads, gray with rain. Dylan's muse, apricot gold. Palos fajitas spice the air down near Mesros where the dancers stir. I watch my first leaf fall, tumble the sky, dance the air, rest in the sun. In my dream without oars, there was no dry land, no raft, just days of rain. The tall oaks alive with blackbirds cackling at our dark, deadly folly. Torn from the nub of awareness, I cry loudest for my daily bread. I don't want to do one of these. This next poem, it's taken me about 20 years to get right. I'm sure you all know, when we were younger and we always wanted to get laid and all that nonsense, and then the girl would say, no, you're kind of like the brother to me. You're kind of like a brother to me. and you go away. So I kind of wanted to turn that whole idea of being a brother and a rock and roll fantasy. And this is called The Sideman. They all wanted to fuck me on Jane Street, but didn't. Such was the bane of the Sideman, witness to women learning to walk. Laura's verses, the heart of the city. Carol's song, its many trains. Joni's voice, black with worry. Dusty, 8 weeks late. Bonnie Blue and Linda yearning for a guy like me. But it couldn't be a guy like me, because who else would she talk to? Certainly not the naked one. Each kiss a sweet thank you. Each touch a true sign. Why complicate things, they sassed, heading west with me down Jane Street. Buried in the Bronx, Miles, Duke, Handy, Lionel, Max, rest where all gods go. In the zen of a sudden flurry, my wild grapes, too tart for wine. Something autumnal watching death, peak colors fade, fall, crumble away. Snow, rain, rain, snow, snow, rain, thunder, cliffside storm clouds, snow, rain, mountain morning. The anecdote of birds, quiet, clear, hushed, warm, tall tales, small tales, true. Left of middle sea, the blues hold sway, the gold sax praises, bass kicks in. Mingus and the moon over Mohonk, the myth, the mountain melodies. Sunrise, East Side, Dog Hammarskjöld Plaza, weeping cherries, springtime snow. The warm contour of her neck, cradled in the crook of my arm, asleep. Old sun settles the debts of Lowell. Good night, my sad blue angel friend. Overlook mountain undresses. Fog veil falls off. Ohio peeks in. Softly breathing, she gives me perspective. She dreams new stars in the sky. Dolphy and the winter's first snow. Dolphy, Evans, and the winter's first snow. I climbed this mountain to root myself, be cut by the wind of season. I found the color of this moment reflected in her wedding ring. Peterskill, Lower Carriage, Mossy Glen, these steps I take towards grace. It is snowing leaves and God is happy, and I am too in the storm. White birch, pallet, pine, come waltz, red, yellow rustle, a young breeze passes. A post office box in the twilight zone, my lost episode unseen. Flurries, frug, backflip, Main Street, foxtrot, ballet, twist, two-step waltz and swing. The dark lilt, the cool tilt of the trio, jamming, piano, bass, drums. White caps crest the wind along a wasting, chilly hints, changing seasons. And I think we're going to close with this one. Like Ferlinghetti, sing your song. Like Ginsberg, songs you sing like Jack sings. Thank you, everybody. Nick Bisanz. Huzzah! You like that? I want to thank everybody for coming out or watching tonight. This is the very first CAPS for 2024 here at Greenkill. We had been doing it for 3 years straight, and we kind of we all needed a break, so we stopped for a couple months. That was Nick Bisanz on guitar. I can't thank him enough for coming down from Albany. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, our other two featured readers for tonight are Will Nixon and T.G. Vanini. And being that we go alphabetically, our next featured reader is Will Nixon. He is the author of The Pocket Guide to Woodstock and co-author of Walking Woodstock, Journeys into the Wild Heart of America's Most Famous Small Town. His poetry books include My Late Mother as a Ruffled Grouse and Love in the City of Grudges. Two new books are due later this year. Sunday Afternoons, The River Smelled Like Engines, Poems of Hoboken in the 80s, and If Not in Heaven, Then in Saugerties. Always a pleasure to welcome my friend and a collaborator, Mr. Will Nixon.
This is a poem for Mike and Nick. Nick? The night I saw the Clash. The night I saw the Clash. Back from my first business trip, 3 weeks studying paper. Hold on. Back from my first business trip. 3 weeks studying paper mill chemistry in Appleton, Wisconsin, where placemats read 12 steps to making cheese. And the diner cowboy, nursing coffee in a camel, greeted me each morning. Hey, Manhattan, bet you've never seen a tornado. No, but bored silly by my Best Western suite. I'd ridden the mechanical bull in a stripper bar. Dancers wore striped thongs and pasty stars, adding up to flags. The waitress called me Hun. Back in Times Square, my suits dropped at the cleaners, a $0.25 in my pocket, meeting my girlfriend for the new Vim vendors. When a teenage new waver in pressed cuff jeans hawked me 2 tickets to the Clash at Bonds. Christ, the Clash had owned my brain for months. London calling to the faraway towns. Now war is declared, battle comes down. London calling to the underworld, come out of the cupboard, you boys and girls. Already, I could hear the mighty bass goose stomping across stage. The singer belting out anarchy under concert lights landing like UFOs. Fuck Vim vendors. I had to rescue my girlfriend from the cinema now. My life in paper chemistry was over. I hustled up Broadway and nearly collided with two street urchins chased by a lumbering wino. Baggy crotch, piss-stained the size of a continent. bandaged hand wagging a shiny knife. His chimney soot hair and scabby red face made him a drunken devil to these boys, who'd slashed his pants pockets for loose coins and now ran for their lives, thrilled to cheat death. But he smiled at me with gold in his teeth, Odysseus disguised, the warrior who'd crossed the mocking plains and returned to test citizens to see beneath his filth. I vowed, my God, don't ever let me leave this town again. That's for you guys for such a wonderful performance with the music and the words and the psychedelic visuals. That was a treat. I want to take a time out for a personal commercial, you might say. I recently published a book called Crossing Divides, My Journey to Standing Rock, by the late Vernon Benjamin, who was a fellow from Saugerties, who I knew in passing through poetry events and book events. He died in 2022. I was part of a memorial reading of his poetry and fairy tales and fictional writings, but also this essay he wrote about driving out to Standing Rock in 2016. I was so moved by this essay that I decided to publish it as this short book called, again, Crossing Divides, My Journey to Standing Rock. And there were two little passages from the book that I wanted to read because he was a real wordsmith. And there's one passage near the beginning that to me reads a bit like a poem, almost like a prose poem. He left Thanksgiving morning. He arrived in the Standing Rock camps, which is North Dakota. It's already getting to be winter out there. And he finds a young couple who kind of tell him where to go and steer him to what he wants. And so I'm going to pick up a little passage which starts with them. I gave them a small bag of chocolate bars made especially for this trip. I explained the sentiment behind the chocolates and how the ingredients were related to the Ossetti cause. They were created by Ray Stang of Lucky Chocolates in Saugerties, New York, and included slips on each box announcing the ingredients. Chocolate for love and support. Organic ginger for warmth. Organic cranberries for stamina. Organic sunflower and pumpkin seeds for power. Organic almonds for strength. Sea salt for replenishment of tears. 50 one-pound boxes, $1,000 retail donation that Ray made overnight when learning that I was going to Standing Rock. Thank you. And Vernon, apparently his friends told me he would either send out an email or he'd even call you on the phone and he'd say, it's time for a poem. So this is one of his time for a poem poems. Dark and late. It was dark and late. I wrote a poem that made me afraid, so I left it in the typewriter overnight. When I got up, the fear was gone, and so was the poem. I don't know if you guys have had that experience, but I can relate. Between dark lighting and aging eyes, and having forgotten my notes on the kitchen table, I'm winging it a little bit. This one is called Love Falling In. Punch bowl tipsy, we stepped onto the terrace for air. You told me your medical history, 2 abortions, 6 months starving on peaches, group therapy with Ted Kennedy's ex-girlfriend, and a lapsed Baptist who cruised Grand Central bathrooms, embarrassed by his toupee. But you were better now, and I was 23 at my first high-rise party, feeling the full height of the 38th floor, pouring my drink over the railing to stretch into a 6-foot snake with glassy skin. Here's where that weird suicide jumped, you said. Wind blew him through a window downstairs. Nobody knew until they tracked blood drops from the elevator and found him back up in bed. How ironic, I said, to leap and miss. Totally bipolar, you said. He married the next week. At the punch bowl, loaded with tequila sunrise, we dipped sticky cups and toasted the 4th of July. Fireworks blossomed over the apartment horizon. Day-glow dandelions in a sky too velvet for stars. Your purple blouse strained buttons over a tan bra. The gap in your front teeth meant something sensual in Chaucer that I tried to recall from sophomore English. Your shyness was inviting. You asked if I knew the Merck Manual of Medical Information, spread like a library dictionary on its own lectern by the stereo turntable. I didn't, but wondered what it said under love falling in. Thank you. This is a little later in that relationship. It's called Fucking Manhattan. Tireless, we ordered home delivery of diaphragm cream by a sad Mexican boy under spastic lights in your submarine green hallway. I tipped him $5 while you blew static hairs off your favorite Marvin Gaye, hiccup scratched at college parties. With the volume lowered to a whisper, so your psychotic neighbor wouldn't throw books at her wall, we slow danced until I lasso-tossed your nude bra onto a lamp, and you teethed my nipples into tender cones. For the final round, you wore maroon boots with gray gum spots on the soles. I knelt to inhale the scent down your spine to your ass, then grabbed hips like bony handlebars and didn't stop, vowing to outlast car alarms whooping and yanking. The sports bar drunks spilled onto the avenue, chanting, "Go, go, go!" Afterward, you offered Valium, but I preferred to fall asleep naturally, meditating on striped kites cast on the ceiling by street lamps through Venetian blinds. When shouting ruptured the alleyway, I peeked through the blinds at a woman with red impatience on her fire escape, hurling down a man's clothes, khakis, loafers, white briefs that fell like shot doves. A naked man beside shackled garbage cans caught his clothes one by one and yelled, "Give me back my resume!" I loved this scene. But you'd fallen asleep and stolen my half of the covers for warmth against AC. To work off my excitement, I flipped on kitchen lights to hunt roaches. But smartly, you'd stashed all our dirty dishes in the fridge for morning. To be useful, I laid them in the kitchen bathtub and sprayed scalding shower nozzle water to scour frozen grease. When your cat jumped from her radiator, I noticed in the dark window across the alleyway an orange cigarette tip drawing a curious circle. The woman with impatience watching me, naked and hardening in the greatest city on earth. So to continue in that vein of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, this is called, I was young once, it's hard to remember, but that's why I have these poems. The Philosophy of Margaritas. The Philosophy of Margaritas. Two slushy green drinks and ice cream sundae glasses, and your friend with new blonde hair, spiky as a winter thistle, locked mouths with a stranger, as if kissing was a contest, like sucking the most from an orange. The wiggly hands of the Mickey Mouse clock clapped at midnight. Thunder Road hit the jukebox a third time. I grabbed your small hand, hard as chicken bones, for such a comforting body, and we burst into the frigid night to breathe cold daggers as at icicled street lamps under the Hoboken moon. We swung our unzippered coats like superhero capes. You raised both arms as if signaling touchdown and leaned to the left, leaned to the right, your new aerobicize for sexier stomach muscles. I karate kicked a telephone pole, plopped onto a garbage bag for a beanbag chair, and admired a wooden television console with golden fabric on stereo speakers dumped like an altarpiece in tomorrow's curbside trash. Hours before bedtime in Yankee PJs, I remembered I watched a TV like this one when Neil Armstrong bound across the moon, an astronaut on planet trampoline. Dad said, I bet he could hit a hell of a Dad said, I bet he could hit a hell of a golf shot. Mom said, please. Dad said, a heck of a golf shot. Mom said she'd never live on a planet with so much dust. In those days, when Mom and Dad still talked, I believed when my rocket trip came, I'd be skipping the moon and Mars, shooting past Jupiter. I'd be racing for the stars. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to, I was just in Hoboken. Still in Hoboken. Different book, though. Sunday afternoons, the river smelled like engines. As Mike mentioned, I want to put together a collection of just Hoboken poems, and this will be the title poem for that one. Sunday afternoons, the river smelled like engines. I slipped through the pier fence, hidden behind the green copper terminal, where commuter trains sat vacant on Sundays. Temping all week, I had no other time to plan out my novel, Hoboken Rising. For inspiration, I brought my cache of dollar paperbacks from Hoboken Vintage Comics, where someone had unloaded college staples, Sartre, Celine, Brecht, Gravity's Rainbow, classics I'd skipped, too busy majoring in misery over girlfriends. Finally serious about literature, I piled old dock ropes into a chair and held pages firm against wind that tossed gulls on wingtips dipped in black ink. I read the first line, but not for the first time. A screaming comes across the sky. What was it about Pynchon's masterpiece? All summer, I couldn't get past his octopus with Pavlovian training. My attention drifted to washed-up buoys, trapped in pier-piling eddies. Then the green Fuji blimp nosing overhead, a sky whale bound for Newark. I stood up and waved like an airport runway jockey, pretending to redirect the beast to Bayonne. My wife asked why I didn't read fun books instead. Let's go together, I replied. I'll read Keats to your nipples. But Sunday afternoons, she volunteered at the church shelter, baking lasagna for 40. Literature's no substitute for helping others, she told me. But she hadn't read what I'd write. Sunday afternoons, the river smelled like engines, was my first line. The rest could be anything. Thanks. Then, of course, I got old, I matured, I left it all behind for a log cabin in the Catskills. Moving into my cabin, the Catskills. Hung a Cherokee bear mask by the door. Loaded the pencil holder with wild turkey feathers. Gathered an armload of dead branches for the kindling box. Picked asters and goldenrod for the old pickling jar on the table. Decorated the windowsill with birch bark and bird nests, a littered shotgun shell for a humorous touch. Swept mouse droppings off the shelves. Shook dust from the fireplace rug. Noticed again the smell of the cabin. 30-year-old logs varnished whiskey brown. Charred chimney stones, wool blankets, passed from owner to owner. Brewed pine needle tea, wiped owl pellets from the porch bench, transcribed in my journal the song of the stream, listened to the red-eyed vireo owning his treetop till sunset, lingered over sautéed mushrooms in stew, studied moths on the windows, dozens, hundreds, fluttering, crawling, staring with eyes tinier than crumbs, yet gold as fire. Stepped outside to join moths at the windows, my first friends. Thank you. I'll do two more. Still in the cabin, but not so lonely. The life of the stag. You nibbled sharply on my lips, testing. You just want a girlfriend to help you carry logs. I held you bony and damp in my lap, studied the cheek mole you said children love to touch. And go to the movies with, I said. Your black Manhattan jeans lay dropped on the fire rug by my rubber-soled Wolverines. Smoke leaked from the wood stove like a cigarette. In the morning, we snowshoed Cross Mountain. I showed you beech trees graffitied by bear claws the size of our hands, and told you my story. After the Hoboken divorce, I chose these mountains, hung a Cherokee mask by my door, filled my pencil holder with wild turkey feathers, wrote my first ode to porcupines. Then I found my inner Wendigo, named after the Indian spirit in a low-budget movie shot one winter by our reservoir. Half deer, loaded with antlers like bone chandeliers, half human in buckskin leggings. This creature hurtled like an Olympian through the midnight forest, while strobe lights flashed beech trees fierce as totem poles. And what was the Wendigo chasing, you asked? The same old story, I said, revenge. We kissed, turning me back into a man. Thanks. And I'll finish with a poem from the book Mike mentioned, Walking Woodstock, Journeys into the Wild Heart of America's Most Famous Small Town, which I did with my late friend Michael Perkins. This is the fire tower on Overlook Mountain, which you may have been to. If not, go. Fire tower. Never mind your replacement, the airplane. You've pulled lightning from the sky, tickled your legs blue with St. Elmo's fire. You've bathed in cold fog, shed icicles like thousands of earrings. You've whistled through hurricanes, watched meteors scratch the black dome in every direction without leaving a trace. You've ignored wars. You couldn't name a president. You've chaperoned 2 generations of trees. You've tolerated thousands of visitors climbing the zigzag of your spine to stand inside your empty square head and believe they see what gods see. Thank you.
Will Nixon, everybody.
Yay.
Thank you. Before I bring up our next featured reader, I just want to say thank you to David Schell, who runs the Greenkill Gallery. If you're not making your art here or trying out new things that could become art here, you're really not taking advantage of a wonderful situation. So thank you, Dave. Our next featured reader is T.G. Vanini. His book of poetry, Dear Cloudface, was published in 2018 by Post Traumatic Press. He performs and records his songs and song poetry with the Princes of Serendip. The most recent recording is Yumpadiddly Be Silly Songs, Jaya Records 2019. As an active mathematician, he likes to explore the interplay of poetry, music, mathematics, and much more recently, visual art. I haven't seen TG in about 3 years. It's always great to see him. Come on up, buddy.
Thank you. I'll start with a poem called I Reached. I reached behind my shoulder and found another kind of blade. When it pierced me, nothing bled but my sense of wonder. Steel caressed my fluttering heart and cut it like a flower. Everything was slower. The panther's tongue made a sweet rasp as it comforted my wound. Sleep came over me like an avid lover and left a minute later. And look, the bright flags and balloons of the everyday parade were dancing as the marchers beneath sprouted gossamer wings. Soon, what remained? Some echoes of songs and a telescope to watch the tide rising. I know that you want me by the glow of your skin. Is there something in the wings? A feast in the larder? Or just a glimpse through a door that will never go in? The first step is simple, the others get harder, so why not hitch a ride with an angel while you can? Ahead lies pain, whichever path we follow. Will they flow to different oceans, your tears and mine, or will they mingle on the same pillow? This poem is called The Stone Horse. The stone horse cantered by, white with quarry dust, one flank not yet fully carved. Here she came again from the other side, red velvet petals trailing from her belly, blind eyes aslant and bulging. She carried the wind on her back, the wild March wind, kicking like a newborn child with spurs of ice. She crashed through the wall of skin that marked us off from the world, leaving a ragged hole where the darkness poured in. She stopped by the smoking hearth. The embers sizzled. The two sleeping brothers stirred. The night grew deeper. The waters licked my toes. I felt the slap of the ice giant's breath, amazed, engulfed in his final bellow of rage. A weeping mess, he hung from eaves and branches in a last hopeless grasp. He lost his cool, broke down and shattered. He cradled his head in the mother mud. Conscienceless but tender-nerved, he shrieked when touched. Hot honey flows fast, but not as fast as the cold water escaping from his brittle hands. Rain danced from the sky and seeded a tide of shouts and shards. I did it, I did it, I killed the ice giant. There was no stone horse, no tent of skin, no sleepers, just an aching bone and a crooked finger, just a mile of silk between here and safety. I'm going to read a couple more poems which are from my book. This one is an old personal favourite of mine, and it's spoonerized. So be prepared for spoonerization. A fumbled margus glue on a rug, her shins frommering in the cruel bees. Gone came a lord and hectored a calandful, dellowed by the fovel with a manful whore. The thump of the stungus turned her lace to the fog and shade. It's a crime, it's ball accaswood. We groggle and strow, we duffer and sigh, while they pavort and clay their battered stuples. Just rotch and I'll weep, my revicious delenge. So straying she setched her two waning remings and scuttered into the fly, gleeing with crow. All the order ball for a diss of blows, she coyfully jackled. Og jumped to frup and rack on her bode to where galling lay sprod on a manky bus, munching lungus of thieves, the front plugged into the throd of goat. Stod gagged got, I can't eke or speak. The fucked up rangus, the hevel of the dead. The debt muttered, so I can't sing what I'm doey. And they clissled and wrenched the pound of Clares. Down the bit they slanked andtud and the mumbled. And med they went to Buddy and was sawning in the mick. And sod then, ginst just crimpers and wokes, and his bevel the doddies as blow as a mind. And while we're in the mood, I'll do the sequel, which is called The Devil's Foreskin. One slow day, while the devil was dozing, God seized a sharp stone and cut off his foreskin and served it fried on a head of lettuce for breakfast. Into the room burst God's shrill sisters, well known for never minding their business. There was Guilt with her velvet tongue, and her twin with long reach, Sin. I want that toy, croaked Guilt, and God racked his head in his arms and started to sob. I'm so bad, I'm worse than a worm, I shouldn't have done it. But just as Guilt fingered the delicacy, Sin snatched with sharp teeth and equal alacrity. It's time, she cheered, it's time to declare a tug-of-war. Pulled one way by Sin and pulled one way by Guilt, the membrane grew wide and then it grew taut, and pulled one way by God, who joined in, it grew thin. The devil awoke with a start, with a commotion, with a leap to his feet, with a roar he rushed in and pulled his way, his corner, his piece of his own prepuce. 4 angry voices, the devil's cadenza romping through the battling descants, while God belched imprecations and obscenities profoundly. Then the devil grabbed a rib God had lying around and beat it on the stretched skin and made a booming sound, and he cried out in bliss, "This is it, this is it, this is music!" And as they danced, they sang to this effect, with a devil's drumskin barbershop string quartet. And when we and you have met, you can bet you won't forget nothing yet, with a devil's drumskin barbershop string quartet. Suddenly, the elastic sheet, strained beyond its limit, snapped from their grips into space and gave birth to the universe. Well, it's lovely to be here, and I would like to take the opportunity to read just an excerpt from the longest poem in this book. It's one of my personal favourite bits, and it explains the picture on the cover, which is a beautiful picture by the late Carol Zaloom. So at this point, the narrator is on the run because he's been falsely accused of a murder. I walked the roads on moonless nights, not daring to be seen by day. I held my hands in front of my face and groped with my feet each step of the way. My boots were shredded, more whole than leather. I followed a stream to an echoing lake. With the dawn, I saw myself in its mirror. My face was gaunt, my skin was cracked. I threw off my clothes and leapt in the water and washed away the grime and fear. Though I couldn't wash away the hunger, I swam ashore. My clothes were gone. I shook myself and stood there, naked. I became aware of a menacing presence. I turned. Among the trees I saw, my clothes at his feet, a man with a gun. The snout of his rifle was aimed at my chest. He cocked the catch and considered me coldly, cruelly, thinking perhaps of a bounty. A bushy tail hung from his belt. Then came a sickening, grating snap and a howl of pain that tore my heart from my chest. I was shot, I thought, but no, the pain wasn't mine, nor the cry. We turned, the man and I, to the edge of the thicket from whence the sound had come, and there, in a welter of mud and blood, lay a fearsome creature with eyes of fire, a she-wolf it was, with her leg in a trap, a vicious device with teeth of steel set by the man at this watering place. He had come at dawn to check his luck. In this moment of mutual surprise, I rushed at the man and knocked the gun in the water. We fell as one and wrestled and rolled down the slippery bank. His hands found my throat. My face was buried in mud. I choked and struggled, found some strength and kicked. His hands loosened. I twisted away. I was naked and slippery, hard to hold, but he threw the whole of his heavy weight on top of me. I squirmed, and then a clank of metal, another yowl, this time close and fierce and hot. The she-wolf had gathered her force and lunged, dragging her useless, shackled leg, and bitten the man in the flesh of his calf, her maddened, hopeless act of revenge. I threw him off as he fell in a spasm. I crawled up the bank. The gun had vanished. Go, I roared, though I knew not his language. He hobbled away, cursing and bleeding. The she-wolf and I regarded each other. Each had saved the other's life. I saw now she was heavily pregnant, her swollen belly and teats all muddy. I gently prized the jaws of the trap and splintered her leg as well as I could. She winced but bore it. All her strength was used up in that vengeful leap. We needed to find a safer place. I lifted her tenderly in my arms. Clothed only in mud, I carried the wolf into the forest. She kept me warm. In a hollow oak I made a nest. Weak with hunger, I went to look for food. I found some berries and nuts, which I offered to share, but she refused. And in that hollow tree were born 6 fine cubs. She licked them, they mewed and wriggled their ways to her teats and fed, the while I was standing guard outside. All day they slept, the mother and babies, and I kept watch, though what I should do if the huntsman came I didn't know. At dusk she awoke and pricked up her ears. I listened too, and faintly I heard the voices of wolves, intense and keening. Her pack were calling and mourning her. She turned to me, her eyes pleading. Once again I lifted her gently and held her cradled in my arms. Her splintered leg stood up like a flag. Her cubs were nestled in her belly. I walked and walked. The howls grew loud and near. The forest grew deep and dark. At dawn we came to a hidden glade and were welcomed home by the joyous pack. And if you want to know what happens next, you have to buy my book. Beautiful. When a shadow hung from my shadow and a pouch from my belt, thunder belched a city of termites into the night air. A boy was in the road. He begged my reason, but I gave him a nuzzle and nothing more. The rain was alive and hungry. He sought shelter under my cape of oilcloth patched with dog-hide, watchful as a lizard in a tent. I was, he said, his new father, his last he'd lost on the crowded road to Goma, and the one before that in Guatemala City on an empty street. And another, barely a memory, who looked like me. Do you remember, he asked me, the olive trees burning so slowly that the kids played in the flames? In Jericho, rumors like mushrooms, then silence and drought. Somewhere a mud cell stained by smoke and a wooden bird. I pulled its tail, it pecked. He turned and whispered, here's a swollen river, I can't swim. Face peppered with birch bark, I made out severed ropes, a bridge dangling, my arms too. Here everything was overripe, far gone, and I said, now leave me, I'm looking for my own 2 sons. Through dancing mist, a red eye in the distance was a camp or a checkpoint. I saw him walking like a duck, enjoying my shoes, falling off his feet each step. His laughter, fading as the shadows claimed him, was beautiful. And I would love to read this poem by a Palestinian poet from Gaza, Mossab Abu Toha, and you may have seen it. It's in the recent New York Review of Books. It's called The Moon. She's lying on the asphalt, her small belly, her chest, her forehead, her hands, her cold feet bare in the night. A hungry cat passes. Shrapnel rings as it hits neighboring houses already bombed. The cat grows hungrier. The cat sees the girl, her wounds still warm. Hungrier. The girl's father lies next to her on his back. The backpack he wears still has the girl's favorite candy and a small toy. The girl was waiting till they arrived to eat her lollipop. The cat gets close to try the flesh. A bomb pounds the street. No flesh, no girl, no father, no cat. Nobody is hungry. The moon overhead is not the moon. Okay, thank you. And if I may, I would like to leave you with a song. Though your days are long and aching, still in the end you find they've swiftly flown. Every day is a choice you're making. Die for a day or live it well. Live it well, live it well, live it well. Every day's a chance you're taking. Better our chances grow together. Though our days are long and aching, better as one we'll let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, the world is always changing, never the same 2 days together. Every day is a choice you're making. Make it for all and make it well. Make it well, make it well, make it well. Every day is a choice you're making. What do you hold and how to let it go? How to let it slip away. Let it go, let it go, let it go.
I would like to thank Will Nixon, T.G. Vanini, Nick Bisanz, and David Schell for everything that's gone on here tonight. One of the reasons we do these things is to hear one another, and I have never understood how T.G. Vanini does what he does. I wish he would teach me someday. But I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, everyone out there in Zoom land or live stream land or wherever the hell you are. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.